Welcome to Innovation Pulse, your quick, no-nonsense update covering the latest in startups and entrepreneurship news. First, we will cover the latest news. Chapter, a Medicare advisory startup, secures $75 million funding. Windsurf, an AI assistant, is in $3 billion acquisition talks with OpenAI. Startups raised $91.5 billion in venture capital in Q1. After this, we'll dive deep into the PAEI model of leadership types and its impact on team dynamics and organizational success in today's fast-paced business world. Chapter is a Medicare advisory startup that has recently secured a significant $75 million funding round, valuing the company at $1.5 billion. Co-founded by former Republican presidential hopeful Vivek Ramaswamy, Chapter is designed to assist seniors in selecting Medicare health plans by thoroughly analyzing factors such as doctors, hospitals, and prescription drug coverage. What sets Chapter apart from other Medicare insurance brokers is its commitment to prioritizing client needs over insurer profits, offering a more personalized and client-centric approach to healthcare planning. Initially backed by Naraya, the venture capital firm led by Vice President J.D. Vance, Chapter also received investment from Peter Thiel, who previously took over Vance's board seat before resigning. The startup's board now includes Democrat Donna Shalala, a former Secretary of Health and Human Services and U.S. Congresswoman, illustrating Chapter's nonpartisan focus on improving Medicare advisory services. This unique positioning makes Chapter a valuable resource for seniors navigating the complex landscape of Medicare options. Join us as we discuss the implications of OpenAI's acquisition. Windsurf, formerly known as Codeium, is a startup specializing in AI coding assistance, currently in acquisition talks with OpenAI for an estimated $3 billion. Founded in 2021 by MIT graduates Varun Mohan and Douglas Chen, Windsurf has already achieved significant traction with around $40 million in annualized recurring revenue. Despite this figure being lower than competitor Cursor's $200 million, Windsurf's potential acquisition by OpenAI could shift market dynamics. The deal would position OpenAI in direct competition with Cursor, which it also financially backs through its OpenAI Startup Fund, raising questions about potential conflicts of interest. Windsurf's product is valued for its intelligent coding assistance capabilities, making coding more efficient and accessible for developers. Its unique proposition lies in its ability to streamline coding processes, providing substantial value to its users. Recent developments, such as a promotional offer for users to lock in access at $10 per month, hint at impending significant announcements. With backing from notable investors like Green Oaks Capital and General Catalyst, Windsurf's growth trajectory remains promising as it continues to innovate in the AI coding space. In the first quarter, startups secured an impressive $91.5 billion in venture capital, marking an 18.5% increase from the previous quarter and the second highest quarterly investment in a decade. Despite this surge, Kyle Stanford from PitchBook remains bearish on the venture capital scene, primarily due to shattered expectations for lucrative exits in 2025. The anticipated cycle of IPOs and significant acquisitions, which typically infuses fresh cash into startups, is threatened by stock market volatility and recession fears linked to trade policies. Many startups, wary of debuting in a depressed market, are delaying IPOs, as seen with Klarna and Hinge. While the first quarter funding figures seem robust, they are skewed by OpenAI's massive $40 billion round, which alone accounted for 44% of the total. Additionally, 9 other companies gathered substantial funds, masking broader challenges in the startup ecosystem. Investors predict that without a market turnaround, many startups will face down rounds or discounted acquisitions, with 2025 potentially accelerating shutdowns if economic conditions worsen. And now, pivot our discussion towards the main entrepreneurship topic.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another deep dive on Innovation Pulse. I'm Donna, and joining me as always is my brilliant co-host, the management guru himself.
Yakov Lasker here. And Donna, you're too kind. I'm just a student of leadership like everyone else.
Always humble. Today we're diving into something I'm personally excited about, Adizes' leadership types. It's a framework that's been around for decades, but seems more relevant than ever in our rapidly changing business environment.
Absolutely, Donna. Adizes developed this model back in the 1970s, but it's like fine wine. It's only gotten better with age. The PAEI model, that's producer, administrator, entrepreneur, and integrator, gives us a fantastic lens to understand different leadership styles and why diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones.
Wait, so it's PAEI? Can you break that down for our listeners who might be encountering this for the first time?
Happy to. So Adizes observed that effective management requires 4 distinct roles or functions. He gave each a letter, P, A, E, and I. And here's the kicker. He argued that no single person can excel at all 4 simultaneously. We all have natural strengths and weaknesses across these dimensions.
So we're all a unique blend of these 4 attributes? That makes sense. Let's dive into each one. What's the P stand for again?
P is for producer, the person who gets things done, delivers results. These are your execution specialists. Think of the leader who's always saying, "Let's hit those targets," or "What did we accomplish today?" They're focused on productivity and performance.
Oh, I definitely know a few P types in my career. They're the ones constantly checking items off their to-do lists and looking at performance metrics, right?
Exactly. They live for results. Apple's Tim Cook is often cited as a strong producer-type leader. He's known for his operational excellence and ability to deliver products on schedule. These leaders thrive on efficiency and output.
And the A stands for administrator?
That's right. The administrator is all about process, systems, and organization. They're the ones asking, are we following the proper procedures? Or, where's the documentation for this? They create order from chaos.
So there are planners and organizers, the people who make sure trains run on time and everything has its place.
Precisely. They're the ones who create scalable systems that allow businesses to grow sustainably. Think of someone like former IBM CEO Ginny Rometty, who excelled at managing complex organizational structures and processes. Without administrators, organizations quickly become disorganized and chaotic.
I can see why that's important. What about E, the entrepreneur?
The entrepreneur is your visionary, the one looking toward the future and asking, what's next? They're concerned with innovation, change, and adaptation. They're constantly scanning the horizon for opportunities and threats.
So these are our dreamers and big-picture thinkers, the ones always pushing for change, and sometimes driving everyone else a little crazy with their constant new ideas.
That's them. Think Elon Musk or the late Steve Jobs, leaders who continually pushed boundaries and weren't afraid to disrupt even their own successful products. The entrepreneur provides the vision and direction that keeps companies relevant in changing markets.
And finally, we have I for integrator. What's that about?
The integrator is perhaps the most fascinating type. They're focused on building consensus, developing company culture, and making sure everyone is working together effectively. They ask, how can we collaborate better? Or, what does the team need to succeed?
So they're the people, the ones who make sure everyone feels heard and valued.
Exactly, they're the ones building bridges between departments, resolving conflicts, and creating environments where diverse perspectives can thrive. A classic example might be someone like former PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi, who was known for her ability to unite diverse teams around a common purpose.
You mentioned earlier that no one can excel at all 4 roles. Why is that?
Great question, Donna. Adizes believed these functions sometimes have inherent conflicts. For instance, the producer's focus on immediate results can clash with the entrepreneur's desire to experiment with unproven ideas. The administrator's love of systems and procedures might slow down the entrepreneur's push for rapid innovation.
I can see that. It's like they're pulling in different directions sometimes. So what's the solution? Just accept that you're good at some and bad at others?
Not quite. Adizes suggested that while we all have natural tendencies, great leaders recognize their weaknesses and build teams that complement their strengths. If you're strong in P and A but weak in E and I, you'd want to surround yourself with visionaries and team builders.
That makes so much sense. It's not about being perfect at everything. It's about knowing yourself and building a balanced team.
Exactly. And Adizes used a clever notation system for this. If you're excellent at a function, it gets a capital letter. If you're competent but not outstanding, it's lowercase. If you're weak in an area, it's represented by a dash.
Oh, interesting. So someone might be PAA, meaning they're strong in production and administration, decent at entrepreneurial thinking, but not great at integration?
You've got it. And each combination creates different management styles. Someone who's just strong producer only, would be called a lone ranger. Great at executing but probably creating chaos in their wake without the other elements.
And I imagine different organizations might need different types of leaders at different stages of development.
Precisely. A startup might benefit from a strong entrepreneur, leader who can set a bold vision, while a mature company going through restructuring might need a strong administrator to create efficient systems. Context matters enormously.
Let's circle back to something you mentioned earlier. You said the I type, the integrator, is particularly fascinating. Can you elaborate on that?
Gladly, the integrator role is often considered the rarest and yet increasingly valuable in today's complex business environment. While PA and E roles tend to be well represented in management, strong integrators are much harder to find.
Why is that? Is it just a personality thing?
Partly, but it's more complex. The integrator function requires a unique combination of emotional intelligence, communication skills, and the ability to balance competing interests. In traditional business education and career paths, these soft skills weren't valued or developed as much as technical or strategic abilities.
That makes sense. We've historically rewarded people for individual achievement, not necessarily for being the glue that holds teams together.
Exactly. The integrator requires genuine empathy, not just as a technique, but as a way of being. They need to truly understand different perspectives and help others see situations from multiple angles. That's much harder to teach than financial analysis or strategic planning.
So why is the integrator becoming more important now than it was, say, 30 or 40 years ago when Adizes first developed this framework?
That's a fantastic question, Donna. Several factors are at play. First, today's organizations are far more diverse than in the past, culturally, generationally, and in terms of working arrangements. Bringing these diverse elements together requires integration skills.
I can see that. And I imagine the rise of remote and hybrid work makes this even more challenging, right?
Absolutely. When teams aren't physically together, the informal social bonds that naturally develop in an office setting need to be deliberately cultivated. That's integrator territory.
And what about the pace of change? Does that factor in?
Hugely. In times of rapid transformation, organizations need someone who can help people navigate uncertainty and change while maintaining a sense of cohesion and shared purpose. Without strong integration, change initiatives often fail because people resist or disengage.
So the integrator helps people through transitions?
Yes, and they do it by focusing on both the practical and emotional aspects of change. They understand that people need not just clear direction, but also emotional support during periods of uncertainty.
It sounds like we should all be trying to develop our I skills then.
There's definitely value in that. The challenge is that traditional management development often emphasizes P, A, and E skills. Financial management, strategic planning, operational efficiency, while neglecting integration skills.
How can someone develop their integrator capabilities if they don't naturally lean that way?
It starts with self-awareness and genuine curiosity about others. Practicing active listening, seeking to understand different perspectives before offering your own, and learning to facilitate productive conversations rather than dominating them. These are all developable skills, but they require intention and practice.
It sounds like being an effective integrator might sometimes mean stepping back rather than stepping forward, which goes against the grain of how we often think about leadership.
That's an insightful observation, Donna. The integrator sometimes leads from behind, creating spaces for others to contribute rather than always being the center of attention. Their success often comes through the success of others, which requires a certain humility.
Let's shift gears a bit. How does Adizes' model help us understand organizational problems or dysfunctions?
That's one of its greatest strengths. Adizes believed that organizational problems often stem from imbalances in these four functions. For example, a company with strong PAE but weak integration might be financially successful but have high turnover and internal conflicts.
And I imagine a company with strong EI but weak PA might have happy employees and innovative ideas, but struggle to execute effectively or maintain profitability.
Exactly. You're getting it. Organizations, like individuals, tend to develop certain strengths at the expense of others. A classic example is the innovative startup that fails because it can't develop the administrative systems needed to scale.
Or the established company that's perfectly organized but can't adapt to market changes because it lacks entrepreneurial thinking.
Precisely, and what makes Adizes' model so powerful is that it helps diagnose these imbalances and points toward solutions, namely, ensuring all four functions are adequately represented in the leadership team, even if not in any single leader.
So, great leadership is really about assembling a team with complementary strengths rather than trying to be a superhero yourself?
That's the key insight. Adizes called the mythical perfect leader, someone who excels at all four functions, a PAEI with all capital letters. He believed this person doesn't exist. Great leadership is about knowing your strengths, acknowledging your weaknesses, and building teams that compensate for them.
That's actually quite liberating. Instead of feeling inadequate because you're not good at everything, you can focus on leveraging your natural strengths while ensuring you have people around you who excel where you don't.
Exactly. It's about complementarity, not perfection, and it applies beyond formal leadership roles too. Even in peer relationships, we naturally complement each other's strengths and weaknesses.
I'm curious, how does this model apply to different industries? Are certain types more prevalent in, say, tech versus manufacturing?
Great question. While you'll find all types in any industry, certain sectors do tend to value specific functions more highly. Tech startups often prioritize entrepreneurial vision, in their early stages, while established manufacturing companies might place higher value on P&A, production and administration.
And I imagine that can create blind spots if taken too far?
Absolutely, the tech company that only values visionaries might struggle with execution. The manufacturing firm that only values efficiency might miss market shifts. Balance is key, especially at the leadership team level.
How can organizations use this framework practically? Is it just about understanding differences, or are there specific applications?
There are several practical applications. First, it's a powerful tool for team composition, ensuring you have all four functions represented in your leadership group. Second, it helps with succession planning, identifying what type of leader an organization needs in its next phase. Third, it's useful for personal development, helping individuals understand their natural style and how to compensate for weaknesses.
And I imagine it could reduce conflict too? If I understand that my colleagues' focus on procedures, the A type, isn't just them being difficult, but reflects a different and valuable perspective?
That's one of its greatest benefits. When we recognize that these different approaches all have value, we can move from judging differences to leveraging them. The P-type can learn to appreciate the A-type's concern for process, while the A-type can understand why the E-type keeps pushing for change.
As we wrap up, I'm wondering, what's one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to remember about Adizes' leadership types?
If there's one thing to remember, it's that leadership effectiveness isn't about being good at everything. It's about knowing yourself, your strengths and limitations, and building teams where different styles complement each other. No single leadership style is universally best. Context matters, and diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones.
And I'll add one more, especially for those in leadership positions now. Take a moment to reflect on which of these four types comes most naturally to you and which you struggle with. That self-awareness is the first step toward more effective leadership.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Donna. And remember that as our organizations face increasingly complex challenges, from technological disruption to geopolitical uncertainty, having all four perspectives represented becomes not just helpful but essential.
That's a wrap for today's episode on Adizes leadership types. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, this is Donna. Sadat South the site.
And Yakov Lasker, reminding you that management really does matter. That's it for today's podcast. We explored Chapter's impressive funding journey and its unique approach in the Medicare advisory space, and delved into Ishak Adizes' PAEI model, emphasizing the importance of balanced leadership. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.